Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is David Novak. Somebody suggested that I should take some poems that I have written in response to the Donald Trump presidency and the havoc which it is wreaking upon my country, the United States of America. I should keep writing them and at the end of all this, compile it into a book. I have no desire to do so. I hope that the muse ceases to visit me, to be quite honest about it. During the time of at the very start of the COVID-19 coronavirus outbreak, I wrote a collection of poems. They are at my Lulu page under the title Quarantine Boutique. It's a small selection of poems right at the onset or the outset of the pandemic, back when Donald Trump was saying that it would be over in a matter of days because it was an invented hoax perpetrated by the Democratic Party. Of course, we knew that that was not the case. Years before that, another book available at my Lulu page, it goes under the title of Small Poems. I had written poems in opposition to the ongoing occupation of Iraq under the Bush-Cheney administration. I was putting those up all over online pseudonymously. And ultimately, at the end, I decided to put them all together in a book. It's a rather thick book. When I was still of a mind where I was hoping that my words might have some sort of an impact. We know from W.H. Auden that poetry does not influence anything. That's not something that is new. It's not a new dawning in my mind. I knew that then. Just like within a week before the bombs began to drop on Iraq in the famous shock and awe campaign, I finished a book titled The Condemnation, which was my voicing of condemnation to this campaign, this unjustified attack of another country's sovereignty. I remember at the time somebody said, well, you wind up becoming like the enemy that you fight in such a situation. And before that, I had written a play titled War for Peace, which I tried to get produced. Couldn't do it anywhere. People in Chicago were not interested in opposing the intended war in Iraq or against Iraq. And so when it comes to the present situation, I feel that in each of those previous occasions, the works that I made, the poems that I wrote, the one about the one called Quarantine Boutique, that was just, I wanted to set the record down for it. But the previous ones, I thought I was writing at a time when action was possible. Even before that, I had written things against the Bush administration, the George H.W. Bush administration, where the country made a major wrong turn. Not the first and last, but it seemed to me that everything subsequent to follow issued from those days. And so I see little service in these poems, such as I might write today. The time for action largely seems to have passed. I have spent a lot of time following a couple of YouTubers. The one is a guy named Hawk Podcast, and the other is, I think, Parkland Permaculture. And the theme of his videos is largely, we told you so, we told you this was going to happen, you stupid MAGA chuds, or whatever. His vocabulary is a little bit more rich than mine. And her stance tends to be more like, well, in a democracy, we have the power. We can act against these would-be oligarchs. I am not so sure. Indeed, I hope people can. But I am not really sure how invested I am in the present crisis. Obviously, the repercussions are going to have their effect on me. I was hoping in some years' time to perhaps be drawing a Social Security check. Well, the Republican Party has made it well known for dozens of years that they wanted to eliminate the system. A small tax upon the wealthy, even such a tax as was existent or extant during the Eisenhower administration, say, would keep it solvent ad infinitum. But the Republican Party of today and of any time post-Eisenhower, I would say, has been pretty explicit that they do not want Social Security to exist. So such money as I have paid into the system may never see its way back to me, and any kind of health care which I might have been hoping for may also be likely to evaporate soon. There was I suppose it was a TikTok video shared by each of those two YouTubers that I mentioned, of a woman saying, well, now that Medicaid is going away, the funding is ceasing for it, all of these elderly parents and so forth are going to be kicked out of their nursing homes and that kind of thing. Elon Musk himself has said that the problem with the West is empathy. There is too much empathy going around. Empathy or sympathy, whatever. The poor, the weak, the infirm, they should just be shoved aside and left to starve, or however. And so I expect that will become my lot in the United States of America. There is no reason to suppose it will not. Given the current situation, it is hard to see any kind of a possible response. I remember the great radio broadcaster Bob Lasseter. He was in Chicago at the time the administration of George H.W. Bush attacked Saddam Hussein, which had been given a green light by the administration to cross over into Kuwait. and he said that I don't think it was called a shock and awe campaign, but it was something of that sort. He said the touted fighting machine of Saddam Hussein has not even raised a fist in response. Well, there has been no fist raised in response to everything that the Republican Party is doing. Indeed, Republicans themselves, it has been reported in The Guardian that most of the legislative branch belonging to the Republican Party have been explicitly under threat of violence against members themselves and their families. So they can't be expected to act. And the Democrats, well, we don't know. They just can't get it together. They don't have the numbers. And they seem more inclined to try to play nice, I guess. Because that's all they know. They've since the time of Clinton, the president, they've learned to appease the Republican Party and to cave in to the Republican Party and to compromise with the Republican Party. So we may be past the point where compromising is possible. So I don't see any clear way out for this country. I don't see any particular serviceability to any poems which I might write, lamenting the loss of the democracy. I think for each of us, we just have to make our peace with the situation. I believe it is mostly people of my generation who are really fully cognizant of what is being lost. However, it is people of my generation also that most fully cast their votes for Donald Trump, the white people of my generation. Some people say it was explicitly a vote for the installment of white supremacy without a mask. And I see no counter argument to that. People did not want to elect a black woman to the highest office in the land. White people did not, I should say. Trump was largely supported by old white men and old white women, and I suppose all the rest of white men and white women. I haven't really looked at the numbers. It doesn't really matter that much to me. So today I finished reading The Tale of the Heike, a Japanese classic. This is a translation by Hiroshi Kitagawa and Bruce T. Tsuchida. Highly recommend this translation. It has the imprimatur, I guess you would say, of the great Japanese translator, Japanese to English translator Seidensticker, who did the version of Tale of Genji, which I read at least a decade ago, possibly a dozen years ago. I'm not sure anymore. In many respects, I like this book better than The Tale of Genji. Possibly because it resonates so well with my world today, or the world of my country today, because it documents, let us say, a time of great upheaval in Japan when the ruling family, you could say, or the ruling clan might be a better word, of the Heike was losing out to the rise of the Genji faction. And such a time of upheaval has not been felt in my country in my lifetime until today. And so it's very interesting. It becomes a military conflict, as one might expect. And the Heike faction loses, and then the final portion of the book deals with the eradication of the remnants of the Heike faction. So things in my country have not gotten nearly to that sort of phase. Perhaps they will, perhaps they will not. Perhaps somehow the current course of events will be turned. It's possible. But the way I see it, we had our second chance, and we decided, collectively at least, for the wholesale destruction of our democratic system. I don't know why I keep holding this. I've drained it to the last drop. The entirety of my poetry writing career was a product of the democracy under which free speech was a critical component. Free speech has been gone in spirit for a good while now, at least since the previous election of Donald Trump, but it was on the wane even before that. And coming from both sides, neither the right nor the left upheld it. The Republicans of today use it as a talking point, but they don't believe in it any more than the Democrats as a whole believe in it. And I said when Trump was elected the first time, my career as a playwright pretty much ceased, because it took as a given an audience that accepted free speech, the free reign of ideas, and that audience was ceasing to exist. Actually, I think the audience had ceased to exist even before that, but at least I had the window to exercise my muse through the form of comedy, the dramatic form. And I don't see a possible return to writing plays. I would be happy to do that if I knew what to write or how to do it at this point. a couple of years ago now, maybe, I finished my last book. It was a book of sonnets. I'm talking about poetry. And so anything which I write heretofore or henceforth, I guess that would be the right word, is just incidental things popped out by the muse under the pressure of some incidental event, some contemporary news item which happens to goad me. I beg that I don't write much more. I mean, I've given a good portion of my life to servicing the poetic muse. And I think, to use the words of William Butler Yeats, all is changed utterly with society in my country. I don't see a way forward, honestly, but this is a situation which is far bigger than any one of us individually. The events have and will take on a life of their own. The one certainty is that the past cannot be returned to. The cry of the MAGA party, that is the Make America Great Again party, the Donald Trump movement, was to take America back to when it was great, to make America great. We now know that that was just a rallying cry, a slogan to get people together. And greatness was never an intention. It was never really in mind. It was just sort of a feint. And so, how it is to go henceforth, I don't know. I don't see that my following the news is helping me. And possibly I need to pull back a little bit from it. Many people do, regardless. I highly recommend this book, by the way. Thank you for stopping by my channel.